वेलकम नाजरीन, आमिर पीरज़ादा आपके प्रोग्राम के साथ स्टोर फ्रंट। नाजरीन, हम अभी बात कर रहे थे जस्टिन यांकी से, अल नॉर्तेनो के ओनर एंड फाउंडर, जिन्होंने बीफ जर्की विच वाज वेरी यूनिक एंड एस्टैब्लिश्ड प्रोडक्ट. हाउ डिड ही स्टार्ट from a small kitchen to a commercial kitchen, I would say, and then took the brand statewide and hopefully nationwide soon. So Justin, back to you, sir. Thank you very much again for your time and insight on how you guys created the brand. But in this section, I would like for our viewers to know a little bit more in detail, if you can elaborate on some of the points. We'll touch base on the online sales also, especially with the food product, because since you already had experience with the food. So somebody had a good recipe, product is ready. What would be the steps? Let's say if somebody is financially capable, because I know there would be a lot of people, who get help from their family members just to start such thing. So what would you recommend, or how would you suggest, or as you did it, I would say, share your success with people?
So we made a lot of mistakes, for one, and that's going to happen even if you have the best team in the world. You should expect to make mistakes, but you learn from your mistakes. So what I would suggest specifically, if someone is ready to take it from a commercial kitchen, the idea is there, they've created packaging, the next step I would do would be to ask people, specifically who you think your customers might be, about the packaging. And then I would ask them about the taste. So I would literally do, first, let's say you want to sell in a convenience store. I would go to a convenience store. I would talk to the owner or the manager, and I would ask them, would it be okay with you if I sampled out my product here and talked to your customers? When are they coming in? When's the busy time? They come in the morning, they come in at lunch, they come in after work. If you say, these are the people I want to try to reach, a convenience store customer, I would take your product and I would literally give it to them, and I would listen to them. Now, if you have additional resources that you can put towards that, I would create a formal study, a focus group, and I would talk to them about it, and I would create it in a very scientific way to gather data about their reactions and responses to your product, which is, how does it taste? What do they think of the packaging? What's important to them when they're eating it? What about this makes their life better? What features and benefits, let's say it's a cookie. Do they want chocolate chips? Are they too big? Are they too crunchy? I would track that information. That is information that you will, if you don't do it in the beginning, you will learn regardless. Even if you think you have the best tasting grilled cheese sandwich in the world, your customers will tell you the themes that they like and dislike.
For you to make changes accordingly.
You will make changes. Same thing with your packaging. You may think it's beautiful, and they will tell you, this is too small. I don't understand what you mean when you say extra cheese. Where is the extra cheese? You will then have to put additional resources towards adapting it. Just like you would if you owned a store. You wouldn't necessarily keep it the same year after year. You'll move things around according to the way people come in and shop. So that's very important. The next step, if you've learned and you want to continue to scale it, you have to find the appropriate person to make it, manufacturer. Again, for me, because I'm a relationships person, you have to find someone that's hopefully willing to be enthusiastic about it, because it's new. They're probably very busy. They don't necessarily want to take on another project. Maybe they do. So if you can find someone who's cooperative, communicative, somewhat enthusiastic, willing to answer your questions as you go in and explore the concept of, can we do this? If you can find someone who you would consider an ally and someone who's willing to get behind your vision, I would connect with them, and I would very much try to establish a relationship with them beyond just, this is the person that makes this for me.
So we are talking both aspects, from a smaller point of view to going big and creating an own brand. So do you need any licenses from any government agency?
Absolutely.
What would be?
So it depends on your food product, of course, what you're making. For us, we absolutely need regulation and licensing. For us, it's the USDA.
Okay.
Because we're dealing with meat.
Okay.
So that's critically important.
So you have to find, based on your product, which you're trying to launch, which related institution or regulatory institution would be looking over.
Absolutely, and if you're going to sell it in a store, unless it's homemade and you have some agreement with the store that can keep it very small,
right.
You will absolutely need to deal with the appropriate government agencies, state and federal.
So what happens when you sign up with the USDA? You have to send your product in?
You do.
Check?
You do. They will check the product. They will check the labeling, the ingredients.
Okay.
They will absolutely go through it and approve or not approve. You have to hit their requirements according to their rules and regulations.
Okay. Out of curiosity, this is just my personal question. I always used to wonder, who has time to put this label? You know, this much fat, this much cholesterol. So how does that thing done, by the way?
So you have to contact a food scientist who works with a company that does food science and labeling. Okay. I would say your manufacturer is probably a good resource for you to determine who you would communicate to go through those processes.
So is this a law that even if you are selling it on a smaller scale, from store to store, do you have to have a label or no?
If you expect to scale it beyond, say, maybe an individual store, I don't know anything about food service. Now that's
no, we are not talking food service. We are talking food product.
Packaged food?
Packaged food, yes.
You would absolutely need to follow all...
So that's one of the laws that you must have what you have put in.
Yes, it has to be accurate and it's very precise.
Okay, so I think if USDA checks your label, they want to make sure that that's exactly what the product has, what you claim to be.
Exactly. It will be extremely accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much does it cost to go with the USDA for testing and getting the label approved?
Well, there's a variety of cost structures. It depends on how fast you want to get it done. You can go the traditional method, which can take up months and months. And it depends on what you're submitting to them. If you get it expedited, for instance, you're going to be paying for those fees.
Okay.
But again, it depends on your product, what you're submitting, what you want. But it will end up costing you probably, just like if you were hiring a lawyer, you may end up paying a little bit more than you think.
Just to get it approved. So,
yeah.
So I would assume so that if you add another product to your line, every time you have to send in, each product has to be approved all the time.
Yes.
Any of the product needs to be insured.
Yes.
By who? For what? God forbid if a food item somebody eats or something happens to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you will need liability and product insurance to cover something like that. God forbid a recall. You would absolutely need insurance for that. Retailers require very much of a base level of insurance. If you want to scale it beyond a couple of stores, you will absolutely need insurance to cover the liabilities.
So, first of all, again, let me thank you. You have educated me a lot also, because I had those questions, as I said, that, as a consumer, we just pick up a product, we like it, we never think about it again,
Yeah, a lot goes into it.
Love the product, right?
Yeah.
But what happens behind the scenes, that's what actually matters for especially those who create the brand. Right? I mean, who create the brand, who love the brand, who love their product. And I think that enthusiasm, connecting with people, which really creates your product. Am I saying it right?
Oh, absolutely. A big company can create whatever they want to create. And like you said, you can dump money into it and maybe it'll work. Yeah. But we are a small business and we are absolutely fueled by the passion we have, not only for the flavors and taste, but for the branding we've created, and then the people that we're communicating to. If you don't really like people or think that the customer is the most important part of this. They're what put food on your table.
Of course.
So you absolutely have to have passion for reaching that customer.
Yeah, and especially you get the customer loyalty also. So another question which comes logically is that, let's say you have all the ingredients, put them into right place. What does it take for any brand you might have experienced or might be experiencing soon from a small neighborhood to go into a branded store?
That's a great question. So if let's say you succeeded in a small store, you now have a success story that you can take on to a larger retailer.
Right.
And retailers are always looking for new metrics and new products. That's absolutely, they want to be on top. They want to know what's going on.
Right.
So if you have a success story in a smaller store, you can replicate it, hopefully. The other thing you're going to need is you're going to need a lot of time, because it takes a long time. It is definitely not a
overnight.
Great.
Yeah.
You've succeeded in one store. Let's put you in this store.
Right.
You'll need to develop the relationship, and then you'll need to commit. They're bombarded with thousands of brands that want valuable real estate.
Right.
You have to, just like you're creating any relationship, you have to build it and show that you're committed to it. You may be able to get in and get a quick hit, but is that what you want as a brand? I don't think you want a long-term relationship.
So what is the requirement? That's what I'm trying to ask. I know based on my experience with some of the vendors, if you want to get on board with them because they have the selling power. So if they have the selling power, they want to know what do they look for, by the way, instead of I just assume a few things.
Sure.
What do they look for besides your sales? Do they look at the company, the owners, the revenue, the number of items have they sold?
Absolutely.
What specific item they look for, or in your experience?
They look for all of that. They absolutely want to know your entire story. But another thing they look for is the story. So why did you make this? Do you have the passion behind it?
They don't want to take you on board, and then you get bored, and they lose their customers.
Right. And they're people too, so they need to have some kind of connection to it. And usually they have a team. One person's looking at numbers, one person's looking at the overall assortment of products, and then one person's listening to your story. And then they're going to go back and make a decision on it. And the other thing to keep in mind is, particularly if you want to take it from a mom and pop or a small store and grow it with a national or a state retailer, they don't make these decisions very often. So your window is pretty small. So you have to plan a long time in advance, and you have to be persistent about trying to get a meeting with them because they're very busy. So
yeah, I always wanted to know. So you must have, so basically it's like a presentation with your products.
Yep.
You have to go and convince them, let them taste if it is a product. So what I was trying to find out is how much does your sales, because you might have the perfect branding, perfect maybe niche, but do they look for any past sales? Is there any scale for them to look at? Or what would that be?
Absolutely. Depending on your relationships with these retailers, I would not recommend taking a piece of paper and showing them sales from another retailer. That can actually be illegal to do in certain occasions. But you absolutely want to tell your sales story and talk about the successes you've had. The other thing they may want to ask you about is, what are you prepared to do to support this? That's a big question, which means when it gets on a shelf, how are you going to let people know it's on the shelf? And then what are you going to do to invite them to purchase it? Often with a new product, your chance of getting them to look at it is your packaging. It's going to take about 1 to 3 seconds for their eyes to land on it. So you have not a lot of time. So beyond that great packaging, will you demo it in a store? Will you let people sample it? Will you put it on sale? Will you coupon it to invite people in? What are you doing in the community around the store? Are you involved in activities beyond their store that lets people know, go to this store to buy it? So you're creating awareness that it exists, which is a pretty difficult thing to do.
So the big, yes, you're right actually. So the big retailers want you to do the marketing and do the work for them.
Exactly, right.
So, so anyone who has started, with not enough money, or maybe, tied up with their money or exhausted their funds, what would be, how much marketing budget one should have? Is there any certain limit or a percentage of your sales, or how desperate you are to get into bigger stores? If they want you to spend marketing dollars.
Yeah, there's no golden rule or a magic bullet per se. It really just depends on your structure as a company. But you absolutely need to dedicate dollars in your entire profit structure. Let's say you've got $1, and that's everything. That's your entire budget. You're going to need to take a healthy portion of that dollar to put towards marketing.
For the marketing.
You need to continually reinvest it.
So, well, Nazreen, जैसा कि आपने जस्टिन की बात सुनी branding start करने के लिए, and it was very informative even for me because everybody has an idea once in a while. And so basically, this is the passion is there, as we can summarize के पैशन होना ज़रूरी है, आपके पास इनिशियल फंड्स होना ज़रूरी हैं, और स्मॉलर स्केल आपको कोई भी प्रोडक्ट स्टार्ट करने के लिए, एंड देन सेकंड स्टेप आई वुड बिलीव विद द पैशन कम्स अलोंग. सो हम इनसे और बात करते हैं. देयर आर सो मेनी अदर अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ वेयर वन कैन सेल नॉट जस्ट स्टोर्स बट इवन ऑनलाइन. सो हमारे साथ रहिएगा नाज़रीन. हम छोटी सी एक ब्रेक लेंगे और फिर जस्टिन से और बातें करते हैं.